Uh, my name is Ryan Burns. I am the head of community here at the Startup Network. We're Australia's largest startup community. We've got 80,000 so people in the community. When I first started here a couple of years ago, it was only like 50,000. So we've had some big wins along the way. We had Sam Altman join us back in June of 2023. We've had the Diary of a CEO folks come out last year, and we'll see who we get this year. I was working on Elon for a while, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I think he's going to be pretty busy with government stuff now. So if you don't know what we do, let's walk you through it. We're really a fantastic organization for founders. That's our mission. That's our goal. That's our directive, is to help founders pretty much at any stage. But the area that we play in mostly is from idea stage, like you got an idea at the bar for a great company, all the way up to making that idea into reality, maybe building your MVP, and all the way up to product market fit, where you have paying customers. It's kind of the area we play in. We do have some scaling memberships as well, people that are beyond that area, and then our market leaders. And we also have some opportunities for partnerships, sponsorships, and along the way, a whole lot of fun. We host more events than anybody else on the continent. We did about 100 last year, and we'll probably do 100 again this year. We continue to expand, whether it's through different states and through different territories. We have partnerships with both small and large companies, whether it's someone like AWS or our friends here today, Javatech, who's a fantastic partner of ours, and we love having them in part of our community. They bring a lot of great virtual events to us, just like today. We have a variety of events coming up next year that are already slated for the calendar. We've already put them onto our Eventbrite, and I'll put that into the chat as well. We have a monthly pitch night process, which combines both the idea of a pitch night category, like let's say health and well-being, along with a little bit of competition to win a prize. And so the basic application process is listed onto each Eventbrite listing. You can click on there and you can apply to pitch, or you can buy a ticket to join us. It's a really fun type of evening, and I would highly suggest you come and join us. And then the other event that we have monthly is called Founder Connect. That's where you would connect with other founders, maybe perhaps your first potential investor. Maybe you are going to meet a new customer, but it's another great way to connect with your community. And then finally, we have a large festival kicking us off next year, which is called Future Horizons. We did it last year as well. We'll have some major speakers from leadership at Atlassian and Canva to some other special surprises along the way. Who knows who's going to show up? I might be able to get some friends from the US to pop out as well. Besides that, my main role is obviously to lead the community, but really we don't have any rules or regulations around helping anyone. So, about 25 minutes ago, I was on the phone with one of our founders, working through some issues that she's had with pivoting on her product, and she's one of our members, and that's the type of interaction that we have here, whether it's the interpersonal one-on-ones or delivering an event for 700 people. We're everywhere along the way. Next step in this process is I'm going to introduce our friend Rick, who is from Javatech, and he's going to talk a little bit about what those folks do, the important work that they do. And then he's going to hand over to our friends over at Rent Venture, Matt and Svet, to talk kind of through the topic today, which is resilience and turning those mistakes into some startup successes. But before we go, just some housekeeping items. We'd love to see you, active in the chat. If you have any questions at all, please just put them into the chat. We'll get to them. Ricky will be moderating that along with our friend Rahul. And along the way, if you have any questions for me, the Startup Network, feel free to put in the chat, or you can direct message me. But I'll have the information for both the events, partnership, and membership, all that good stuff for TSN. But yeah, I'll hand over to Ricky now, and thanks so much again for joining us.
Thanks, Ryan, and thank you to the Startup Network for partnering with us with this webinar. So I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. As Ryan mentioned, my name's Rick, and I'm the growth strategist at Javatech Studios. So we're a mobile and web app design and development agency. As Ryan mentioned, we'll be talking about resilience today and how to leverage from our mistakes. To help discuss this topic, we're lucky to have Matt and Svet, who are the co-founders of Startup Rent Venture, to share their story. So I'm really excited about that. We also have Rahul, as Ryan mentioned as well, who's the founder, CEO, and technical lead for Javatech Studios. So Rahul will actually be managing the chat room, and picking up any important questions and bubbling that to us so we can pose those to Matt and Svet. Feel free to ask them whenever they come to you. You don't have to wait right to the end. We'll pick them up. Rahul will pick them up as soon as we move along. So just a little bit about JavTech. We're based in Melbourne. We specialize in rescue projects, and by rescue projects we mean everything from helping startups fix their code, processes, and tech stack to get them to their next desired stage that they're on. So that can be anything from getting to out of POC, proof of concept stage, to MVP, to a live launch, or to scale up. Rescue projects can also mean a number of different scenarios, like if you're wanting to transition from one developer vendor to another, to us. It can mean filling in the gaps when something unexpected happens, such as a technical co-founder leaving, or anything in between. And it can simply mean getting a second opinion on what you're building and how you're building it. So getting an independent, objective review of your code, your tech stack, we can do that for you. So if you're interested in that and getting a free code review from us, feel free to reach us or ping Rahul in the chat, and we're happy to set something up. In terms of a little bit more about myself and Rahul from JavTech. So pardon me, Rahul, as I mentioned, is the founder, CEO of JavTech. He has over 15 years experience in the tech industry and is a serial entrepreneur with deep experience in the ed tech and health tech sectors. Myself, I have over 20 years experience in the tech industry, working in various sales, BD, and product management roles with large tech companies such as Microsoft, Yahoo, and Twitter. I still can't bring myself to call it X for obvious reasons. And then for the last 5 years, I've focused on roles within the startup ecosystem. So with various roles at startups, startup accelerators, and VCs, and currently a startup founder myself, working on a startup in stealth mode. So I'm very aware and very, very sensitive to all this particular topic about resilience and making mistakes. So with thousands of projects that Rahul and I and then through JavTech have worked on over the past 20 years cumulatively, with startup founders, product owners, government departments, there's some commonalities we've identified around what it takes to succeed, learn from mistakes, launch and scale. And a key characteristic of this is learning from your mistakes and building resilience throughout your journey. As a company that specializes in rescue projects, we see our fair share of companies and startups making mistakes. But what we see from those who grow out of these situations are the ability to identify mistakes quickly and respond to these quickly. This builds up a kind of muscle memory for resilience. Now, when we talk about resilience, it can come in many forms. I think a lot of people just talk about it sometimes around a character trait within yourself. But there's many forms of resilience. It can be resilience in your product. So making sure your product has an adaptive design, or that you've adopted a robust infrastructure to your tech stack. It can be resilience in your processes, so that you've adopted agile methodology, so you can be flexible and be able to pivot quickly and do iterative improvements. It could be around processes. It could be documentation, which I know is the least sexiest part of thinking about what resilience is, but it's really important. The number of code reviews that we do, where we see products and codes just be very, very poorly documented. It's amazing kind of when we see that happen. So we shouldn't be amazed because we've done it so long, but we're constantly amazed at how much that helps in terms of building resilience, having good documentation in there. And there's also resilience in your team, emotional resilience, and having a supportive culture that builds a team environment where not that mistakes are encouraged, but that they're identified, and that they're not seen as wrong, and that they're seen as learning opportunities. And there's also resilience in yourself. So don't forget to take care of yourself. because it is a long journey that you're going to be on. It is sometimes going to be a very hard journey. You're going to hear a lot of more no's than you're going to hear yeses. So it's really important to take care of take care of yourself. So that's my spiel. It's a very quick one in terms of like resilience. I'd like to now introduce you guys to Svet and Matt. So Svet and Matt are the co-founders of Rent Venture. I'll let them describe a little bit about what Rent Venture is. They're a customer of ours for the last few months now, and we're really encouraged and amazed by their journey and how they've built what they've built so far and how they're growing their startup. So Matt and Svet, welcome. Thanks for attending.
Anytime, mate.
No worries. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. Jump right in. I'll start, Matt, with you. Maybe you can just describe exactly what Rent Venture is. Give us the 1 minute elevator pitch about what you guys do.
Yeah, no stress at all. And look, I'm really excited to be here. We both are. This is the first time we've done anything like this, but we're really passionate entrepreneurs, and we've only just started our journey, but we feel like we've learned so much within the last 24 months that it's exploded. It's changed our whole world. So to tell you a little bit about Rent Venture is it's just like that same concept between Airbnb or Uber. It's a peer-on-peer, business-to-peer sharing platform, but it's around the adventure hire space. Adventure equipment space. So if you think that everyone's got stuff that's just lying around in their shed. So if it's a jet ski, some tents, whatever that might be, we're being Australians, we've all got that. That's the concept. So it's making some extra money on what you've got laying around, or for those people who only get to go out once or twice a year and, they don't really see the purpose of having these things lying around, but they still want to utilize them. So the way we came up with this idea is, like, me and Svet come from a mining background, and we very much quickly realized that we were making good money, but we were constantly trading so much of our time and so much of our opportunities and just our lives for money. And we realized that we needed to come up with a different solution to try and make this a lot easier for us and a lot easier for our families. Because me and Svet, we both have young families, and we really were trying to work towards that, and we want to give them the best opportunity, the best lifestyle possible. So this is where we start coming up with ideas. So for years we've come up with a few business ideas. We've fiddled around a bit. We've both got property, and we're trying to build a bit of a portfolio. But we were in a turnaround where we didn't really know what way to go. But when we stumbled across, we didn't stumble. We more came to the conclusion that it needed to be digital, it needed to be online, and it needed to grow with us. And that's when one day I was walking my dog, and I used to live in a mining town, 550 k's outside of South Australia. Outside of Adelaide. It's a very dusty, dirty town. It's not fantastic to live, but there's some very wealthy miners up there, and they've got every single toy you can imagine. They've got jet skis, they've got boats, they've got motorbikes, and it's all just sitting around. So I was walking my dog, and I was looking at all this stuff, and I was thinking, bloody hell, there's so much shit around. I wonder if anyone's actually renting this out. Yeah. So I actually got on the phone at that moment, and I called Svet and I said, mate, I think I've got it. Like, I think I've got that thing that we were looking for. And then we full jumped into it. So this was like 4 weeks of just solid studying to see if there was anything else like that out there. There was a few similar competitors, but there was nothing that just hit that one adventure equipment space. So that's when we really did. We put together a bit of what we thought was a business plan at the time, with some great help from ChatGPT. And then we kind of really started moving towards the direction of, let's get this thing started. And just like all great founders, when at the very beginning, we jumped on Google and said, how do we create an app, right?
Yeah.
Pretty simple. Everyone does it. We thought, how are we going to do this? So we picked 5 or 6 different companies. We sat there in an interview. We ran through with our business plan that we developed over these 2 weeks. And, we found a company that really resonated with us. They had some great references, and we just hit it. We just jump into it.
So Svet, how long ago was that? Like, And
We all kicked off July 2023. So July 2023, and then within that time by August, we obviously registered the business, and then we were in talks with the first company that developed our MVP. So our whole thing was speed because we work in a fast-paced environment, and mine and Matt's thing is definitely about speed and action. If we're going to do it, let's send it. So from the idea to by the time we initiated was about a month there, and that was from July to August.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess onto the theme of the topic. What was the first big mistake that you guys think you made, and was it something that was pretty obvious and you shared quickly, or was it something that you
Look, I think
about for a while?
I think the biggest mistake for us is like we come from a very trusting background where, well, I'm a project manager, Svet's a project manager, and in the field we develop a team and then we work for it. So we did what everyone does, and we found the best possible people we could find out there to try and help us develop these skills. And obviously we didn't know the world, what it was right now, like we do right now. So we, like I said before, we found some Google reviews, we found the best people, and we kind of jumped with them. And at the beginning, they were really great. They were working with us. So to answer your question, Rick, it was probably trusting those people
Too much.
Yeah.
Cool. No, that's fair enough. And then I guess with that benefit of hindsight, what do you think you would have done differently?
To be honest, I don't know if there's anything we could have really done differently in regards to like our approach. I think my biggest thing is, I think me and Matt both agree, if something doesn't feel right, doesn't seem right, don't keep throwing money at something. Just call a spade, and move on and action it quicker. There was some warning signs we probably could have seen earlier, but that's probably on us. But if you're getting any sort of weird warning signs, you're not feeling as positive about something or something, like trust your gut. We did see early warning signs early in our development days. We probably let it slide, as Matt said, we're trusting, and then it kind of come around at the end to bite us when we went to launch the product. Because
I think we're not coming from this exact world, we had to put a lot of faith in the people that we were paying for, and we were coming up with these questions and we were giving them our concerns, but they were telling us like, no, this is fine, this is how it's supposed to be. When really we kind of knew, instead of going with our guts, we kind of just, maybe they're 100% correct. Instead of trying to find other people who had already been involved, like this startup network, and being like, how can you guys, can we get a feel? Can you tell us exactly your feelings around this?
Yeah. If you guys started working on this in July of last year, and so I assume that first developer started shortly after that, maybe August, September, and maybe you gave them 3-4 months to build. It's still quite like it's like you said, the response and action is still relatively quick. In Rahul and Isaac's experience, we've seen, we've talked to people and customers who stick with their vendor for 2 or 3 or even 4 years. And find it kind of difficult to make that decision to cut or pivot. So that reaction seems to be quite quick still in the scheme of things. Was there any one trigger point for you guys where you thought you just needed to do it, or
probably 2 weeks prior to our original launch date, we went to go do some product testing. And then we got the links and stuff to test the product, and we're trying to access on our phones. Lo and behold, web app wasn't mobile phone compatible.
And long story short, guys, it's supposed to be an app where it's in the adventure space. So you'll be out, deciding that you want to go surfboarding, and you're at the beach. So you're going to chuck your phone out to find a surfboard where you can. So when we found this out, it was like, blew us away. Like, we couldn't believe that every process and every step that we'd taken, from the color schemes to, what kind of text we should use, which would look the best outside. And then when we finally got to the product testing, they're telling us now that, this web app that we've created isn't phone compatible. So we were like, what? You know, it
What
was
do you
a
mean?
big.
In
Yeah, we were just
2024, what thing isn't mobile phone compatible? Like, you know, and
Absolutely.
it was never talked about because they pushed us down the thing of the web app because originally we wanted to build an app as everyone does. And then they pushed us down the route of no, do a web app because it's still the same compatibility, everything else. It's just on the browser, which you can save to your home screen, etc. Then you build the app. So
which we
this was
might
the whole
say is
premise.
which
Yeah,
we might
sorry,
say
mate.
is absolutely a great idea. If anyone's
Good idea.
starting,
Good
start with
idea.
the web app and then move once you've got the customer base to the actual application.
Yeah.
That's my opinion anyway, guys. So
But I think also, Rick, it come down to they got at the start the responses were getting a lot more responses from their project manager, even the team on deck. That was through the development stage. Like I think when it got to the nitty gritty, I think they maybe took on too many projects as well, and then we got minimal time. Like even responses, like when you get no responses 3-4 days, it takes the project manager to get back to you about some like when you're in a tight time frame and you're getting 3-4 days of getting ignored and stuff like that, like that's a massive red flag, you know. So this all happened the last 3-4 months of our development, like all these things started happening, and then yeah, we had to make the decision.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess just to let everyone know and just kind of let them know where you are. So currently you're launched, you're out in the wild, public. That's great. What are you focused on so you're beyond MVP. So what are you focused on at the moment, and what kind of lessons do you think you've learned from that experience that has helped you with where you are now?
So we're currently like you said, we obviously launched our MVP and our marketing campaign. That was in September this year, so very recently. So right now we're just really focusing on trying to build our user base and trying to expand basically nationwide. Initially, we targeted Queensland only, which was kind of a little bit detrimental to be honest. So that's probably just a decision-making thing that we sort of thought would have been better. But realistically, we're just really looking to push the platform further, get more feedback from some users, and just try and get some feedback because we've identified a few holes, etc., that we can fix and streamline the process a bit better to get more users. So we're actually just going back into some more development. For everyone listening as well, JavaTech are our developers as well now. So we made the jump from our original developers over to JavaTech. And obviously, yeah, we're in further development with them now to basically just keep streamlining this thing and trying to scale it now and get a massive user base.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, mate.
So the other question I wanted to ask you around that is, that experience that you talked about when you first got the product and you saw what it was, and it definitely wasn't meeting your experience. And then when we started talking, and then and we saw what you are, we saw what you had been given, we were, to be honest, a little surprised about, some of the things that were missing. And I think we really appreciated that we could be honest with you in giving you this feedback. And then you took it on board. But there's sometimes when we tell customers like this kind of stuff that, or some people around this stuff that they would feel like this is just too hard now. Like I invested so much. I thought I was going to get something. I thought I was going to get X, but I got Y. I just can't do it anymore. I'm just going to give up. But you guys really didn't have that attitude at all. What was, how do you kind of keep on going and staying focused when, you hear all the stats as well, right? Like 90% of startups fail and all this, that, and the other. How do you guys kind of mentally stay focused and support each other to keep on going?
Yeah, look, Rick, I think it really helps having Svet by my side. Like, all the respect to solopreneurs like out there, it's an amazing thing that you guys are doing. But to have someone like Svet who's as like-minded as me, and we just talk every step through. We have hours and hours and hours of conversations with everything, just going through nitty-gritty details until we feel so comfortable about the thing. And then we try to move forwards. So we've never felt like, you know, let's fuck it, let's throw it in, let's not do this anymore, because you know the feedback that we've been given from so many different people has been so positive around this. Like I don't think I can recall ever when I was selling this idea to people that anyone going, nah, this is a bad idea. More it was more like, how much can I invest? You know, that was the conversations we were having as I was trying to go get this out, which was it's an amazing feedback to have. So to go back to your question, you know, Svet has been a massive part of like me feeling comfortable, and I hope I've done the same. But we just work so well together, and we're, you know, if we do have a question, we're not afraid to ask whoever that can be, and that really does help. So that's a big thing, especially as an entrepreneur trying to make it in a world that's not really clear and you don't really know where you're heading. Just ask as many people as possible. You know, 10 to 30 people won't reply, but someone will reply and they'll give you the right advice, or they'll push you in the direction. So I think just some good advice that someone once gave me is any decision is better than no decision, and just move towards the decision, because eventually you're going to get the right outcome.
And we come from an environment where there's constant issues, problems, where you need to think of a solution quick. There's no quitting. There's no putting your hands up saying we can't finish this job. It's find a way. You know, it's find 5 different solutions to this one problem, fix it quick, and then rectify and keep going. Like that's our background, that's our mentality. So for us, it's not even I don't have to think, or we've never had to have a conversation to not believe in our product and be like, maybe we should throw it in. It's always what's next. I think when you also, as a founder, if you have a belief in your product, just keep writing it, just keep going, you know, like have belief in your product.
So speaking of that, and then again, just to reiterate where you are, you've launched and your product, you're doing marketing, but you're also looking to raise. So you're at pre-seed stage and looking to raise.
Yeah,
you're clearly still working full time. Like you're literally now on site.
I'm literally at work right now. Yeah.
So you're like, and you've got
little glimpse into our world.
Yeah. I know you've got babies and all that, and so, and growing families. So what is the reaction been like of trying to approach investors who, and I know coming from that space, that the first question they ask is, when are you going to give up your full-time job and focus on this 100%? Or what's your response to that? Or do you feel any pressure to kind of, you know, do it on their terms? Or do you, how do you respond to that?
I think up until this point, this whole thing has been self-funded by Matt and myself, you know, so our whole premise was we wanted to prove that we can do the whole development, get to launch our MVP, gain traction, social media presence, some marketing campaign behind us, you know. So once we actually did finally go for funding, then we had a good plate to be like, look, these guys can do it. You know, a lot of people just go to funding with an idea. Like we want to prove that we can actually like launch, get some users, get some traction, then go for funding. And then, so it's really only been as of recent that Matt and myself have thought about like going for funding. So what we thought of, instead of going for a raise, we've actually been looking for like another founder, and we've actually found that person. So a piece of equity we'll give to them for a bit of a cash injection into Rent Venture. And then for us, we thought of it as we can't quit our day jobs as of yet, because it's obviously not as profitable yet. So we've thought of another way to get more hands on deck plus money into the business. And that's the entrepreneurial way, isn't it? So we figured out a way how to get more hands on deck, outsource some help, and then also get a cash injection without having to do a raise and give up more equity than required. So look, I think a lot of investors want that, but I think it comes down to me and myself, Matt and myself obviously know what it takes, obviously, to have to feed our families and keep going. So we would know the right amount. So until that is right, it's hard to say.
And I think, Rick, like honestly, it's up to that founder. You know, like we decided to continue on with our jobs. I'm sure we could have slugged it out, quit. You know, we probably got enough savings to get us for a year or two to try and make it happen. But you know, we've also got small families. We've got lives that we have to continue doing. And we've realized the best thing for Rent Venture, without another source of income coming through from a VC or something like that, is to continue to work to fund it in the background as well. You know, that gives us the luxury of, you know, we might not always be present, but it's either me there or Svet there, and now this third founder. So we're always working on this thing. We've always got people. We're always, you know, we've got a virtual assistant who helps us in the background. We've got a marketing manager who works as well. We've got all these little things that are working for us that's helping us to keep going. So it's not always just us, but we're giving everything we can. And when it's finally time to, you know, hang up the hard hats, you know, we'll smash it even more. But until then, we just want to prove that we can do this and then make it happen. You know?
And Rick, obviously, you guys know firsthand what it's like with Matt and myself. Yeah, like either one of us is making the meeting, we're both making the meeting. Matt's in the car, I'm on site. I've been in another country at work. Matt's been at his desert country that he was living, like when he was in the mining town. So we honestly just make it work. You know, like there's no excuses. It's just how bad do you want it?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
It's been really interesting working with you guys and learning the life of a FIFO.
Mining.
Either that, a FIFO worker or an international spy. I don't know which one, but
it's
a setup.
Worked us out. Right, we gotta go.
Shit. Meeting over.
And you never tell us where you are, which is like, yeah, I'm leaning towards spy. Okay, so from each of you, and one last question for me, and then we'll open up to the audience. What's the one biggest piece of advice you could give to somebody who may be 2 steps behind you, like a founder who's maybe like where you were a year ago? They've seen a problem, they're thinking like, oh, why hasn't anybody done this or solved this problem? What's the biggest piece of advice you could give to them?
I reckon if something isn't working, just don't lie to yourself and hope it gets better over time. I'd assess why it's not working, come up with solutions quickly, and take actions. You're going to have uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes you're going to have to hear some harsh things, but in the long run, they're just going to make you stronger. Not everyone in the industry is going to be your friend, unfortunately. Like you said earlier, Rick, there's going to be a lot of no's before a lot of yeses, so you've got to get used to that. And basically just trust in your product. Like if you're really passionate about it, you'll make it work. So if your heart's not in 100%, like you need to give it 100%. But just don't expect people as well to, even though you're paying them, don't expect them to give them the same effort as you'll give them. Maddie, you want to touch on what's the main thing that we've learned, like from Josh? What's the main quote?
Probably a quote that's resonated with me every time we keep talking is, no one does it better than a founder. And that's the core premise of this whole thing. So eventually you'll have to trust in a team and give them the opportunity to come on, but you just got to make sure that you're taking on the right people. So, you know, when you're coming up with your idea, it's an amazing thing. It's awesome. You're so like into the moment, and you're like, everything is just resonating. You're so good. Everyone's saying yes, but don't ignore the no's. Like, just because you're on a high and you think you've got such a great idea, actually listen to people. Don't just take in the positives, listen to the negatives, and then work out a plan towards how you're going to get it. That's my bit of advice. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for that.
And I think as well, don't throw it. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. And because you think if you throw more money at something, it's going to get you a better result. Because just for instance, we've thrown a $8,000 marketing campaign like for a holiday giveaway, and then we've thrown a $250 giveaway campaign, and the $250 one has yielded better results. So just small things like that. Just be mindful as well. Be mindful and spend money, right? And do most of the work as you can yourself as possible, you know?
Great. No, thanks for that, guys. Rahul, do we have any questions to bring up?
Yes. Firstly, thank you, Matt and Svet, for your time. But there are a few questions I think mainly directed to you guys. I think you guys have resonated with the participants. The first one is from Narendra. Can you please elaborate on the speed of the MVP, how fast you're building your MVP, or research on whether people will pay for service, or is it just your mom that gets excited? So how do you decide whether the idea is good? And Narendra, let me know whether this is what you are trying to achieve. The answer for is just basically how do you figure out how fast we build it and who to listen to before you start going forward with it.
Look, I think how fast you build it's, they say how long's a piece of string, like that's the concept is what are you actually building? So for something like what we built, we were able to jump on that pretty quickly because it was complex, but it wasn't too complex. Say if you're building something with AI integration and it's got all these different moving parts, you might need to stretch out your MVP to make it perfect. But what I will say about MVPs is they don't have to be perfect. You can put a product out there that works, that shows the idea, and the feedback that you get from that is when you decide to develop the proper product, the real product. So to give you your answer, there's no real definition of how long an MVP should take, but we were able to get ours out pretty quick, and we're now able to recover and figure out what we need to do to make it the best possible product. So,
Svet, do you want to add something? I want to add from as a company's perspective what we recommend. For MVP, we tend to recommend don't spend more than 2-3 months to build something out if you're really sure about the idea. Before you start building something out, I think that design stage is, of course, important because for a small amount of time, you can see visually what's done. That visual component then can be shown to your friends and family and beyond to get some feedback. And at that point, you can decide whether to pivot, to shut down, or to move forward. Because you want, as Matt said earlier, you want to hear all the positives and the negatives, not just listening to the positives and thinking on going on a high that your idea works for everybody. It might not. So that's something that I would share from our experience. Second part of the question was as well, is that did you bootstrap your MVP, and what was the ballpark range for your MVP cost? I'm not sure whether you want to share that or not, but it's a question to both of you.
Look, so our MVP, because we had so many complications, and every time the developers at the time presented a new complication, they would also ask us to pay. So we had a ballpark around 250 grand at the beginning, Australian dollars, and then it kind of blew out quite an extensial amount.
150.
Sorry, 150. Yeah.
150.
Yeah.
150. Yeah.
Again, our point of view, when we heard that number, we were truly shocked ourselves. Again, it doesn't really. What we tend to tell our, I guess, MVP founders are trying to build the first product. 2 to 3 months equates to X amount of dollars. Let's say $20,000 to $30,000. If you can't get everything in there, then cut your features down, because you want to build something quick, something that's affordable, and get it out of the market to get validation. So you don't have to. Sorry, Matt and Svet, but you shouldn't be spending so much money to get the MVP up and running. This is from our perspective from Javtech.
And also something that we should have implemented first was like do a landing page first. Do a landing page and get some email signups, see if you can get some interest and, do your homework and see if you can get a landing page just set up, and then just see how much interest you can get as well. That'll give you some outside sources. So so we did that like halfway through, like we worked that out, like trying to gain some just for marketing, get a bit of email lists and all the rest of it. But it was on off, like they couldn't properly get it going. So our landing page was a complete shamble, but I suggest that's a good start. That's a good start for any founders. Do a landing page.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. Yeah, thank you. A question from Dan is, I'm curious how much validation of the idea and the business model you had before building, and why did you choose to outsource instead of hiring a team internally to build your product?
Do you want to? Oh, okay. Well, we I think when you first come up with an idea, you speak to every single person you can when you see them to see if you think it was a good idea. So, we had peer validation, we had family validation, we ran it out on social media to see if people were also interested. And we did get some great feedback, even messaging some people on some travel groups, seeing if they would be interested. So we did do our homework when it came to figuring out if it was a good idea. But that was kind of like once we were already into it. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do the validation first. So that I would highly suggest do the validation first. Sorry, Ro, what was the second part of that question? I had something for that.
Why did you choose to outsource the work to a company rather than try to build your own team and build it yourself?
Well, for one, like obviously starting, we know nothing about coding, do this and doing that. So like they'll leave it up to the professionals. Like you don't want to launch something and it'd be, oh look, unless you know what you're doing. But like for us, no idea. We didn't have time to learn code and stuff. So if we wanted something quick, we needed someone to develop something for us. And like I would leave it to the professionals because you want a good user experience. And if it goes to shit, people use it once and then they won't use you again because you've got that reputation and name. So I feel like if you're going to do something, you do it properly instead of bootstrapping it. And we realize that also with like when it comes to marketing as well. Obviously do as much as you can, but it definitely helps to outsource good, solid people as well.
And we did reach out to a few people that we did know who were coding, but we would have had to build a long-term relationship and we just didn't have the time. So we were trying to get this thing out as quickly as possible. And we found out the quickest way for us was to find someone who was already doing this in the background constantly. So.
Okay. All right. A second part of the question from Dan is that how did you choose your features to build your MVP? Which ones to keep and which ones to throw away? How do you decide that on your side?
This was actually hard.
This was hard. Budget one.
Budget's amazing.
Budget's one definitely. And I think like realizing, okay, is this just us being sort of really picky, or this is definitely user experience? So it come down to, does this affect the user experience massively? Yes or no? If it's just like a little small feature or something, it's not worth it. You know, you really just got to look at it from like a blind, basically like from just being blind and just say, if I'm a user, is it thorough, you know, and even get some feedback from other people, like to use your product first and see if it's easy to use.
To say how we actually found our features or what our features were, we based it a lot on Airbnb, eBay, anything that's currently doing something very similar. We tried to steal is a good word, steal as many little things as we could to make it work for us, and then slightly changed it. So when you actually do go on our website, it does give a little bit of an Airbnb feel, but that's just because, that's the kind of experience we wanted people to feel.
Easy, something simple.
Yeah. And simplicity. I think like when it comes to features, you want them to be as simple as possible, because like us now really realizing now that even an email that gets sent to you for a verification code can hold you up and people just won't be interested. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. This is an interesting one. I think, Matt, you touched on it, but Rahul is asking, not me, but another Rahul is asking, would you recommend someone with an idea to find a co-founder? What are the pros and cons for a solo founder versus a co-founder?
How to find a co-founder? Look, there's plenty
should they find a co-founder, or solo is okay versus co-founder? Yeah.
Look, I think it's the founders, it's whoever's coming up with it, the founders' preference to see if you feel like you can go through the steps and the wars and the trenches to get there at the end and be that founder. Like, and some people have the resilience for it. Like, I know me personally, if I didn't have Svet there and we weren't talking every single day, talking it out, I would have been going crazy in my head. I probably still would have got there, and all the respect in the world for anyone who does this on their own. But I found it easier for me, or not even, it wasn't even easier for both of us that we had someone to talk to. And, the positive about something like this community that's here is potentially that could become your founder. If you've got a strong group of people who you can talk to about your problems, and they're going to give you true, honest feedback, then that can become your founder. But for us, that we had to do it as founders. Like we had to do it together. It was meant to be.
Yeah. So, and we come from a long working background history together. So that's why it stems, like me and Matt have this relationship. So people might not have the same sort of relationships, but as Matt said, if it's not a founder you want to bring in, even mentors is helpful, which that's another hard thing to get involved in. But like once you start getting into this scene, you start networking, etc., and then you can really lean on people and like appreciate people. Like for instance, like Rick and Raul having us here today, it's networking. Introducing us to people. We've got Josh White from Neon Treehouse. Like we catch up with him regularly in Adelaide, like, and things like that. So we network with these people because we look at them as mentors as well. So it's good to get that advice if you don't have someone as a founder. If you're doing it by yourself, find some mentors.
And look, I think mentors is a weird thing, because when you're touching on mentors, everyone thinks that they have to be in the tech space, they have to be doing this, they have to be doing something similar to what you're doing, but not necessarily. Like, you know, one of my mentors, he runs a few businesses. He's got a concrete company and he runs a portable toilet business, but he's such in that space of, you know, business mindset. He understands exactly how to do it. Even if it's not the same, there's always similar traits. That's the beauty of it. So don't go looking for, if you're struggling to find a mentor, like I look personally, we've messaged thousands of people in the tech space trying to get them to talk to us, but our business isn't worth $1 million yet, and they're not really interested in it. So we've had to find other people who can potentially be that for us. So
yeah, I think that's a good point. Mentor is a good way to go for sure. Yeah, you're right. Not doesn't have to be in the same space as you are, but as long as they have experience to share of any kind, can help your business or your journey, I think that's always beneficial. And one of the things that and this is my mentor is, I don't have a mentor per se, but my mentor is, I think, Instagram Reels in some sense, because I get a lot of motivational guidance. And one of the thing is delayed gratification. That's something I remember myself, that wanting something right away is not going to happen. You have to keep working at it. You'll get that 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line, but the hard work has to be done right now. That is something that I picked up as well from my Instagram mentor, Instagram Reels mentor.
Well, Raul, we believe it every day, like 1% better on a long enough time scale always ends up on top. Yeah. Like no matter what you do in life, like if you just do the right thing at the right time, work really hard on something over a long enough time scale, that 1% each day, it's massive. A year and a half ago, if you told me and Matt we were going to do this before we started, to how much we know now and how much happened and all the rest of it, that's only a year and a half. You know, so imagine what can happen on a long enough time scale.
100%. Jeremy had an interesting question, and I think that's a question from me as well in some sense. Why did you launch and register your business as .com and not .com.au? Was it a thought process behind it?
Scaling. We didn't want
just in case we wanted to go.
Yeah.
Just in case we talked about it, like if we send it and we go global, then we could have one platform. Now realizing that that's not, you know, going to work ever, but back then that's the kind of conclusion we came to. Yeah.
And he mentioned that rentventure.com.au is available, so I think probably jump on buying that before someone else buys it, just to have that brand name. Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy.
As if you said, yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
Awesome. Give us your details.
Because you don't want someone to come big and someone's trying to sell you rentventure.com.au for $1 million.
Exactly right.
So Rahul has another question. What are the best ways to validate an idea to scale? What's the ideal number of people acquired to validate something that is B2C subscription based on business model? It's a very specific question. I don't know. Any thoughts, Matt and Sweat, or Rick as well? I'll repeat the question. What are the best ways to validate an idea to scale? How do you make sure that it's time to scale? Have you had that conversation with
users?
Yeah.
Definitely.
What's the number?
Well, for instance, so I guess the way I could put this in our terms, so like for a bit of validation, so we've got a lot of existing rental businesses from Queensland on. So we had to get these businesses on like prior to launch. So imagine trying to sell someone something to put their business online, and we couldn't even show them anything. Like we couldn't even show them a website and all the rest of it. But like if they hear your idea and they like it and they go for it, I guess it gives some validation and some legs if you get like 15, 20 businesses that actually want to list their stuff pre-launch. I guess that's a very good indication. Like from us perspective, that's how we did it. And we got businesses on board without them actually seeing the product. They just heard the idea, liked the idea, and they actually put some items up from their rental business. So I think for us, that's the only way I can really answer that question.
Look, I think if you're looking to scale and the kind of number you'd need to, I would say if you're pulling in decent amount of revenue weekly, and that's something that's going to cover your expenses, you can start looking at scaling a bit further. of what that potentially might be for your, like, I can't speak on what your business is, but for us, we were only going to add in a subscription model once we have reoccurring users, and we know that once we turn on that subscription model, then we're not going to lose 50% of the users, because that's unfortunately that's the truth in it. When you start adding in extra costs, you'll lose most of the clientele that you have just because they're not all about it. You'll have the true believers who trust your product and they love your product, and they're the people who stick around. But as for a number, look, I couldn't tell you at this point because we're not up to that stage of our business.
Rick, do you want to share something from your journey?
I think when we see this in some of the other projects we have, we call it like the good problems that you may be experiencing. Like if you're seeing way too many sales that you can't handle it, manually, or if you're getting too many email queries, or your server is going down through too much traffic, then those are obviously the points to scale up or think about the process and how to pivot and iterate for scale. So I think when you see the good problems, it's probably maybe a month ago you should have scaled for that, but that's okay. Good problems are relatively easier to solve, but it's a good signal that they're the good times that you should be scaling at that point. And by scale we mean automate or improve or get more robust. Yeah, I guess there is not a straight answer because every business is different, every product you're building is different as well. So it has to be case by case basis. But a good way to indicate is a problem that you may have that you can't keep up. That's a way you could answer the question. Otherwise, you can just see if there's a steady income coming in, a steady growth going on. If you're seeing 2 people every single day going to 4 people signing up, it's a steady growth. That could be another indication that it's time to probably scale as well. And then your marketing efforts, whether it's organically viral or through paid marketing, are getting those numbers that you're expecting. I think the last question that we have. One more question.
Yeah, one more question. Yeah, the last question we have is from Marie. Again, this is directed to Matt and Sweat. Hi, Matt and Sweat. Thanks for the great advice. I have personally found the entrepreneurial journey to be quite a lonely process. It's tough when it's just you and your idea. What's the best advice to keep pushing through despite the challenges?
Look, you want to go? You want me to do that?
No, go.
Look, from my perspective, it's entrepreneurship. Coming up with a business, it's so hard, right? Especially when there's those times where you can't see over the hill, you can't see where you're heading next. So the best advice that I could give you is just be open, talk to people. When you're feeling a certain way, make sure that you're communicating with the people around you, because even if they don't understand, they're willing to listen, and it will actually make you feel better, and just know that if you're feeling that way, then you're probably on the right journey. Like you're probably, a few steps away of having a win, because we haven't had many wins. It's only now that we're seeing wins, and, every little one feels great. So keep pushing, keep pursuing, because I tell you, you're on the right path, and just make sure that you're talking to people. Like I said before, a community like this is a fantastic place to start, or find someone else that you can introduce into your business who's willing to share that same, stress and relief, stress that potentially they're going to take on, because 2 is better than 1 if that's the way you want to go. That's my advice.
And also the fact that you being in this chat as well, you taking the time out of your day to be in something like this, and you even know that this is available, tells you that you are passionate about what you're doing, and it's a grind, but you sort of enjoy it at the same time. It's like some weird thing that you have, there's this limited reward. There's no reward. You just get hammered. You got no work-life balance. Your missus going off at you, and then you're still here, still laughing. So I think, like Maddie said perfectly. Just keep going, keep pushing, and pay off in the long run, doesn't it? There's more payoffs than not trying. So there's more risk in not giving something a go.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I don't regret when you're 80 years old that I should have tried that. That was the last question. Thank you so much, Matt and Sweat. I'll hand over to Rick just before that. Everyone
Nice.
here, please go to Rent Venture, have a check it out, spread it around, share it with your
Instagram.
friends and family as well. Instagram it,
Instagram.
boost it if you can.
Yeah.
For the talk that or the shares that Matt and Sal has given us, we can just give them a bit of bump as well. Thank you so much, Sat and Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Back to Rick.
Thank you
Thanks.
guys, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt, for your time. I think that it was a great question to end on. Marie, I think doing that segue, this network, this community, Startup Network, is a great place to find support and advice. I'm not sure if you're on the Slack channel, but absolutely, I'm on it all the time. It's a very active community. You can just reach out to anyone and have a chat and ask a general question about help that you have, especially if you're a solo founder. It's a great community to be a part of. So that's a good segue to Ryan.
Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. And I think we all learned a lot today. If anybody had to step out for a moment or like they didn't get maybe a question answered, we're going to provide some contact information afterwards, as well as I have a recording of this session that we'll put up on our YouTube channel so everybody can access it afterwards. Like Ricky said, we have a bunch of stuff coming up in the new year for the Startup Network, whether you're here in Victoria or elsewhere. I've already got, I put the link in the chat. We've got 30 events already uploaded, and we'll probably end up doing, like I said, probably around 100 events in 2025. And that includes our big startup festival in February, the Future Horizons Festival. And I'll send out a special link for that with a discount code if anybody just want to go. With some big speakers from Atlassian, Canva, and some others. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us today for one of our lovely virtual events. Thank you so much to our friends at Javtech as well as Rent Venture. It's a pleasure to hear your folks' stories, and I don't know about you folks. I learned a little bit about resilience, but just there's a great term in the United States we call grit, and some of the most successful founders have that level of grit that these gentlemen showed today. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
No worries, guys. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
See you guys.